Both from Pat East, and both of their first names are Tammy. So I'd like to introduce you to Tammy Bertel and Tammy Thompson Cook as our presenters today. Please join me in welcoming them. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. We're excited to talk about this topic because AT is such an important area for us to look at, as well as technology in general. You know, there's this continuum of what is technology, what is AT. So we're excited to talk about this today. We do have resources that if you'd like to look at the bit.ly, it is 46, capital K, capital O, capital P, the number 6, capital H, or you could look at the QR code on your screen. So I'm just going to give you just a moment to grab that, and then we will switch over so you can see what's in there. All right, I'm going to switch over so we can quickly look at our resources. So we have a number of resources in here, including the handout from today's session for the PowerPoint, which is the first one. That is a PDF at the top. But we also are going to look at some different worksheets today that we're going to work through, lots of different documents, lots of different resources, so that when you walk away today, you're going to be able to look through the different information. We're going to talk about different resources. We're going to mention different types of planning documents and documents that are available we use to talk about through our session. So we hope that, you know, you don't have to look through them right now, but when you leave, you know, when you look at this tomorrow, when you look at this in a week or a couple weeks, in a month, and you're like, oh, I want to help myself as a youth, I want to help my child as a family member, or when you're in the classroom and you're supporting your students, you go to this folder and you're able to look at everything and really think about, what can I use to support, you know, looking at that technology, and where can we supporting students so that they can support themselves and be that advocate for themselves. So we're going to look at the objectives for today that we had talked about in our session. We're really looking at different types of assistive technology that are going to meet students' needs when they're transitioning. And it looks at the 3 different areas that are really important: that post-secondary education, when they're looking at employment, when they're looking at their independent living. Some of these are going to cross over. Some of these are going to be independent of each other. And that's really important for us to consider and understand. We also want to look at that customization. Some of technology you can pull right off of a shelf, but some technology will need to be customized, and how that can really benefit each person. As well as we're going to look at that continuum, look at different types of comparison, and understand where we can be looking at that. And we'll talk about what that continuum of technology is. And then we're also going to talk about how to infuse technology into those 3 areas that we talk about throughout this entire conference, and we talk about throughout the entire transition process. So we're going to introduce ourselves. We're going to tell you a little bit about ourselves. So my name is Tammy Bertel. So yes, we are 2 Tammys out of the East office, but nothing to get you confused about. Luckily, we don't have the same last name that we begin with to make it a little difficult for yourself. But my background is I'm a special education teacher. I come from working with students from early intervention through transition age. So I've done that wide breadth of working with many different students, working on many different areas of support, working in the transition area, as well as looking at students at a young age, working through their transition into an older age. I'm a tech geek where I work through a lot of technology and put it into my own life, supporting others. But I'm also a love of supporting where we can be looking at technology every single day. I'm also a lifelong learner. Right now, I'm working on my doctoral, almost there, and always about supporting our students and seeing where they can succeed. So I'm going to hand it over to Tammy.
All right, hopefully, I don't think you can hear me as well. I'm just going to stand up here and so another difference, she's Techie Tammy. I'm the SF Gadget Girl, just throwing that out there. She's a teacher. I'm a speech language pathologist. The areas that I specialized in, I always tease that I'm a speech pathologist with a gadget problem, but I also have an AT certificate, an EdTech certificate, and really I look at solutions for learning and communication. So those are the areas that I feel are really my strength, but I also listen and, try to touch base with anybody who I'm working with because I'm highly collaborative. Imagine that, a speech pathologist who wants to make relationships and have interpersonal skills. I recently got my doctorate. Not even a pandemic could stop me. Thank you. I'm an in-person learner. It went online. So that was actually a struggle for me. We both work in the Malvern office, but I also have two students I have two children who are now college aged. I have survived that process, but as somebody that works with students and working collaboratively with my families who gave me lots of tips and tricks, and some of my colleagues who have taught me a lot of other skills. Thankfully, when my children had their various diagnoses, I was able to kind of keep those things in mind, collaborate again with the professionals, either as a parent or a professional, and work towards their future success and help them think about things. Similar to Tammy, I've worked with individuals either through communication or learning from twinkles to wrinkles. Actually, my adults were not quite as old, but that's kind of the span. I've done early intervention through developmentally delayed individuals who I've seen privately. I worked at a university, but mostly I've worked in school settings in private, public, and charter schools. So here we are. Oh, really? Oh. All right. Oh, and this is Tammy's Mentimeter, so she's going to take that part.
All right, so we want to know who is here in our audience so that we can support you and understand who's here. We told you a little bit about ourselves, so please use the QR code or use your phone or your computer to log on, or your tablet to log on to menti.com. And then you're going to put the code in 47548388. And you'll tell us if you're a youth, if you're a family member, if you're part of the education field. And I'm going to switch over. I'm just going to give you a moment so you can get that. I think I see most phones have gotten the QR code. It's a little smaller on the other screen, so I want to help everyone out. All right.
Yeah.
Sorry, I'm just trying to find where it's at.
The 2023 community practice is the window with the internet. That
I don't
the
know.
second window.
I don't know where yeah, it is. Okay,
yeah.
You're right. Nope, sorry. I just had to figure out where it was because it had moved.
When you're in the driver's seat and you have a navigator, sometimes we go back and forth between being the driver and the navigator. That's the benefit of the two Tammys.
All right. So I know I just saw some more coming in as I was coming onto the Mentimeter, but we've got many educators in the room, which we sometimes expect, but also lots of family members and some youth.
All right. Do we have anybody who did not have a phone or a chance to say that, hi, I'm a youth? Anyone? I was kind of relying on, great. We have a
Awesome.
couple youth who maybe did not vote. I'm going to rely on you guys during the session. Just FYI, we want to hear from you either as parents, professionals, or particularly as youth. Like, what are the things that work for you? Because for as much as I can talk about technology, most of the session is going to be related to helping you think the way Tammy and I would when we're sitting at the table with you. We want you guys to be more independent with your thinking. So we can talk about like the various specific tools, but really we want to teach you how to fish or think about technology rather than just give you the fish or the technology tools. There's lots of apps at the end. Be prepared for that. But we want you to be thinking about what works best for the user.
All right. I'm going to hand it over to Tammy. Thank you.
Thanks for coming in. So a group of assistive technology experts put together a list of what they call indicators. You know, signs that show you what's going on, like the grades you get in school, or the heart monitor on the treadmill at the gym. They tell you how well you're doing and where you might need improvement. Well, the indicators on this page don't light up or anything, but they might get you to think about some other skills you'll need besides just knowing how to use your AT.
What do you mean?
It might be easiest if we talk about each indicator separately. There are currently 10 of them listed on this page. The first one is called AT Self-Awareness. This indicator is about knowing yourself, knowing what's hard for you to do because of your disability, and how AT helps you.
Okay. I think I know why I'm using AT, but I'm not really comfortable talking about my disability. I mean, that's none of your business.
Well, I'm glad you brought that up because the next two indicators are really about that issue. First, you should know that there are laws to protect your right to use AT for school and work. Do you know what they are?
Not really.
So yeah, the Americans with Disabilities Act gives people with disabilities the right to reasonable accommodations, and assistive technology is a type of accommodation. You might be able to use your AT without getting special permission, but if a professor or your boss makes it hard for you to use your AT like you need to, you may have to let them know that legally you have the right to use it. In other words, you might need to let them know you have a disability, and you might need to prove it in order to get your rights.
That's not fair.
Exactly, but fighting for your rights is what indicator number 4 is about. Being able to advocate for yourself and your need to use AT is a really important skill. But it's not easy. It takes good communication skills. That's the 5th indicator. Do you feel like you could tell a professor or your boss why you need AT and how it helps you?
Well, I don't know. Maybe.
Let me ask it this way. Do you know how to evaluate your own performance when using AT and compare that to your performance without using AT? That's what indicator 6 is really about. Self-evaluation is not only important when you need to advocate for your right to use AT, it's also important for making adjustments along the way. You know, things change. Sometimes your skills change. Sometimes the task changes. Sometimes AT just doesn't work very well in some places. It really helps to be aware of how AT is working for you across different situations.
Oh, I know what you mean. I like to use my AT at home, but not when I'm in class. Well, I don't like to look different, number one. But usually there's just too many other things going on in class. At home, I can concentrate better.
Right, and that's what indicator number 7 is about, the strategic use of AT. It's good to have different options that you can use in different situations. Now, indicator number 8 is about independently using AT. Would you say you can use your AT on your own without any help?
Well, sometimes I need help, like when my computer crashes.
And what do you do when that happens?
Well, my brother is really good with computers. I just usually ask him for help.
Okay, but what if your brother isn't around? I think you know what I'm getting at. Sometimes you need to figure things out on your own. Sometimes you need to have some backup options, other people you can go to for help. That's what indicator 9 is about, AT problem solving.
Yeah, my brother's moving away soon, so I guess I'll have to find someone else to help me.
You got it. That's what indicator number 10 is about, long-term planning. Do you have a plan for how you'll use AT in the future when your brother isn't around to help or when you need to figure out a different kind of tool? At some point, your AT will be outdated. Who knows what will be out there in the future?
Something really cool, I hope.
Me too. But using AT isn't just about the tool. There are all these other skills that go with it, the ones we just talked about. Are you ready to evaluate yourself on these skills?
Sure.
Great. You can download the self-evaluation matrix to get started. We're working on a new rating scale that will be easier to use, but the one that's here is a good way to start exploring. You'll find more information on
Oops, sorry. Yeah, so this is actually, I hope you enjoyed the video. It's like 4 minutes. What I really appreciated is it touched on a lot of topics that we're probably going to very briefly touch on. However, it's a resource that you can go back to. This is by the Quality Indicators for Assistive Technology. They specifically have a newer aspect that's related to post-secondary settings. We're going to use a couple of the features of the matrix, just as like a raise your hand sort of barometer or measure for where are we in the room with some of these processes. It's a downloadable resource that, again, you can come back later, which brings me to the other thing. You have the handout, but notice at the bottom of the slides, whether you're online or here, the hyperlink at the bottom is exactly where we got it from. The blue titles are hyperlinked to the resource itself. And again, this has a great 4-minute explanation of what we're looking for. This can be used by students. It can be used by IEP teams. It's available to you for free. Most of our stuff is free. I love sharing free things. All right, so let's get to, so what the heck? This is kind of my my funny way of, throwing this out here. We've got lots of terminology for technology. It's education technology when we're using it for learning or to promote, enhance our instruction, where it's information technology if it is the backbone for the digital tools that we're using. Assistive technology, though, can be anything, but it depends on how we use it. And then inclusive technology, if you've noticed, more noticeably was when the iPad came out. It's universally designed. It's got that simplistic, easy to use design that was designed, by Apple. All of a sudden we had digital devices that could do the same functions or similar functions as computers. And now, oh my goodness, it's in the pocket and in our palms of our hands. We've got like highly capable devices or computerized devices in our pockets. And so do our students. So that's where we need to think about, is it universally designed, or do we need to add more? And in what situation or context are we using these tools? And when do they become assistive versus just a tool that we can personalize for our own use? As I mentioned before, it can be any item, and how you use it determines whether it's assistive or not. Then there are services is the other aspect. I included the definitions through IDEA. These are the protections that are provided to school-age students or individuals up through school age. But then when you transition, then the federal laws change and these become reasonable accommodations. I was attending some of the sessions yesterday where, yes, there's going to be variability based on where you go, the tech savviness of the professionals or the colleagues or the HR department, the accessibility, offices of accessibility. But it really comes down to knowing what works for you, what the task involves, and how we're going to optimize it with the tools that are available, and know when to ask for more. But the simplest way that I can always bring teams to this is, as we're thinking about our options, it's easy to identify the things that don't work. So we often start with problem solving. When we try things, what do you not like about it? And then it launches us into the things that you do like, right? So there's always that give and take between the two. In this picture, I chose it because it is actually a toy that's being adapted for switch use using a soldering iron. So that's also something that we have access to. Many of our IU assistive technology tech do switch adaptation labs right around Christmas time. Isn't that a great time to be doing that? So then we have the AT continuum that Tammy alluded to earlier, where we go from low-tech strategies to high-tech devices and someplace in between. These are the tools and resources that are available, but it's I'm more of a low to high tech kind of person because there's at no time that I ever decide that I'm only going to use a computer or that I'm only going to use a strategy or a light tech tool. Usually there's something in between. One of the many resources that we have on the Patent website includes this teacher desk reference that's dedicated to assistive technology. This is downloadable. You can also, if you need it in bulk, you can ask for it for your trainings and have it mailed to you for free. I'm highlighting in this slide the examples that you might look at between low and light tech technology and high tech examples. Low tech might be as simple as pencil grips or even paper clips that are used as page fluffers. You could also use Post-its. That becomes assistive technology when it helps you turn that page and you otherwise could not. Dynamic display voice output communication devices, iPads with AAC apps are also high tech, but it could be note taking. Speechify is an app that reads to you. There's also Grammarly I use all the time, even though I can spell. I like it because it just eases the burden of going back and editing my stuff. So this is one of the tools that's on the Quiet PS website. I'm going to do a show of hands. And I'm going to ask you what's your number, basically. So in the realm of how does disability of someone you know, a student, you yourself, or a family member, how does disability affect the performance, and what level of understanding do you have about assistive technology? So if you are in the more beginner level, we'll start there. I'm aware about the impact of my disability. Are we? Okay, so hopefully everybody is like, knows that part. All right, next level. I'm aware of the need that I need help at college or at an employment setting, but I need information on how AT could be useful. Anyone at the, I'm aware and I know that it's available. All right. 3, I'm aware that I need help in college, but I am not fully aware of what I need or what AT is available. All right. This is actually something you don't know what they have. It's a discovery, right? When you get to college, or what do they have available is always a discovery, and what you like, and is it similar to what you've used is part of that process. All right. 4, we're getting towards that expert level. I have general goals for my college program or my work setting and my AT use. I am learning about the AT I will use in specific classes and activities or employment settings. Right? Okay. Okay. The rest of you, I'm hoping everybody raises your hand because I did not see a lot of hands. All right. I have an accurate and clear sense of my goals, abilities, and need for AT for each class or environment. Oh my gosh, you guys, people. All right. We have 2 more slides like that. Be brave. It's okay. We're here together.
All right. So to build on what Tammy was talking about is looking at what we know and what we are aware of to be using with our students, as well as so that we have that knowledge to help our student as well as our youth to know what's happening. Is when we look at that scope of what assistive technology is, it's really to know what is AT used in, and what is that academic area? What is that that gross motor, that fine motor, all of those sensory areas, so we can know where we can be supporting students to have success. There's so many different areas on here. I'm actually going to move the transcription down so that what it was covering at the top, you could see that we've got so many different areas. We've got areas of daily living, we've got communication, environmental controls, something that you may already have in your home that you're not even thinking is assistive technology, but can benefit students every single day. So something that is much easier for them to be doing than them turning on a light or turning on a television, changing the channel. I have environmental controls in my own home, but it's not assistive technology for me unless I want it to be. So it really depends how that continuum is. As Tammy was also talking earlier, is it tech ed? Is it tech? Is it assistive technology? So really, how are we using this for our students, for them to have success? So many different areas. We've linked them in your handout as well for support and to look at the different areas across the understanding and to see additional resources. And then when we look at the SET framework really is a way to understand what a student is doing and how we can support them to look at what technology we're looking at. And across that continuum, it can be low tech, it can be mid tech, it can be high tech, wherever we're looking at across their entire environment. So we really want to look at the student. And that's where we're looking at the acronym of SET. S is the student and what they do every single day, what their strengths are, what their needs are. Then we start looking at the environment. Where are they each day? What are they doing? Where do we need to focus on? Then we start looking at those tasks. What are they doing? Where do they need some guidance? And after that task, we start looking at that technology. We don't want to put the technology before knowing everything about our student. We start matching different types of technology. Doesn't have to be the best technology. A lot of times it can be no tech. It can be just some support. Tammy mentioned a lot of no tech technology, and I'll mention some later. Sometimes it's something as easy as, I'm standing here on a carpet, and that can be difficult on a student. Maybe it's going to be a mat to assist them because they're standing in the same place. And that benefits their body because they're not able to stand in the same spot. Or a monitor that has a stand where they're at, or that they're tilted. So something lower tech can be just as beneficial if we're looking at higher tech for students. So really, we need to really look at how we're adjusting and supporting that technology for success. We also want to look at how we're optimizing, what different areas we're looking at so that we consider it and think about what we didn't consider each day. Are there different areas we forgot to think about that a student likes something or they don't like it? A lot of times we talk about if we're looking at speech to text or text to speech, and we're looking at that sound that is often being spoken. So when you take the text to speech and it is being spoken, sometimes a voice is not appreciated. Sometimes a voice is, when we hear something that is AI, that augmentative reality that is created, we don't all like. And what one person likes to another person is completely different. So that's why we really want to make this something that a student enjoys and personalized, individualized, part of that IEP for a student to have success. And then we want to also build in that accessibility. Tammy talked about the phone. She talked about tablets. We talked about PCs. It's all built into our programming, our platforms already. And we really want to look at what is there that we're able to use even before we start looking at customization. A lot of times people are able to support students with that accessibility, have success. We've built a lot of the current accessibility features that are built into just the 3 here, but it's constantly changing. We know that Apple has a new iOS that comes out in October. We know that Microsoft is always updating theirs. We know that Android is constantly looking at how to support those. So you're always trying to keep up with the latest and greatest, but it truly is successful for some students to look at accessibility immediately with what is already built in, so that you're also not looking at how is it competing with a program you're already using.
Jamie,
All right.
can I do a quick poll of the room?
Mhm.
All right. How many people are Google people? Oh, yeah. How many people are Apple people? All right. How many people are Microsoft people? How many people are bilingual? Right? Because of all of you, thankfully, I have to live in all 3 worlds. But also because of you, I learn more and more every day. So this is a collective learning experience in general every day. So feature matching is the process of considering the features of an item or technology that can be used to optimize the task and increase independence. When we're thinking about how we're doing this, we'll be looking at the task itself. We might be comparing it. Oh, I don't think I like this. Hold on. We might be comparing it to what others are doing. Am I doing it equally as well or as independently as others? That's always kind of like a measure of success. I do it all the time and I do, oops, sorry. You know, I always want to see, am I doing it as well as others? So that's me personally. Then there's also the considerations around sensory input or the sensory needs and physical access. So that is all part of that consideration process. And the tools that we'll be highlighting today help you think through that. But the other thing is eventually what I want to hear near the end, you'll see the slides. We want you guys to tell us like what works for you. This is our time together to get ideas from each other. What works for me might work for you, but what works for Tammy or Jennifer in the back and Tim might also work for you too. And it's stuff that you try and vet and say that this is the coolest tool ever for this thing. But it might not work for everybody. So it's, you know, it's a unique experience in figuring out how we're going to optimize. This tool we developed really quickly. It's in the same resource folder. It is Planning for the Future, Optimizing Tasks. This was our worksheet just to kind of simplify things because in all the resources that we're providing, we wanted to have an overview worksheet of what you would consider in post-secondary education, if that's training or college, whichever you decide to go. In employment, many students, even at the high school level, have a job or are considering a job later. And then community living and independent living. Hopefully we're out in the community buying things, shopping, and working towards independent living or, you know, even supported living where we're in maybe a home that's separate from where our parents are. If not, that's okay too. There are plenty of situations where families come in all shapes, sizes, and demographics. So I think we have that in our, oops, hold on. I think I'll just click on that. And then where's my sharing? Let me see what okay. Oh, I don't want to sign into that. Hold on. No, that's super annoying. We loaded it earlier. Hold on. I'll go back in here. Go to there. By the way, I'm more of a Mac user. So when I'm on my PC, I prefer a mouse. So when I'm fumbling on the trackpad, just know that it's my own little thing. But in our worksheet, there's 2 pages to it, actually. I don't want to go too in depth, but we'd love to, after the session and on another day, work through it with you. We're focusing on similar to the SET framework, which is used by a lot of people, and it simplifies this consideration process is, you know, we're looking at the setting, the task, what are the needs, and the technology that might be available or that you want to add to what you're doing. Then, again, thinking about no, low, and high tech, what are the tools that you're going to be using, whether it's, you know, for organizational tools. I still use Post-its, but I also use reminders on my phone, and some of them are GPS based, some of them are time stamped. So I kind of, like I said, float between the world of no tech and high tech. Oops. Oh, wait, why is this weird? All right, I think I lost my, hold on. All right. Oops. All right, hold on. Let me find it. How did I get out of here? Yes, I can't find the mouse. All right, technical difficulties already. I didn't say the technology pair. So, and then of course, in post-secondary settings, then you're deciding, are you attending a college or training program? And with that, each setting is going to have somebody that's going to be working on what you might need. Disclosure and is part of that process. And also, we still live in a world where we have to prove disability. So in going to college, my daughter and now my son had to provide the documentation needed to be eligible for those services. Our pediatrician, thankfully, was great at crafting a description of why these supports were necessary. So that's always something to think about. And I know in the other sessions that I've been attending, some of that's already been discussed in our other settings. But what was amazing is my daughter started at one university and transferred over to Temple. Both offices of disability had somebody that was there that had her talk about and advocate for, or describe how her disability affected her learning. She's more of an invisible, she has invisible disabilities. So you walk up to her and you don't see that she's vivacious and cute and spunky until it comes to learning. And then it's hard. Or she has health issues where she can't attend school sometimes. But they were great. They talked to her about, okay, so here are some tools and resources. That's what Tammy and I do on, when we're sitting at the table with you guys, is we talk about the cool tools that might fit that need. And then not only did they talk to her about the tools that she needed, they also offered her other things that might help her later, but let's add them just in case. Have you ever had that conversation? I feel like that's not always the conversation we have at the table in classes. And I definitely, as the parent, didn't have those conversations when I was, trying to advocate for my students, but I was trying to be that person as a professional when I came to the table and I was like, hey, here are some things that we want to consider, that we want to try. Innovation happens every day. Let's try it. If you're starting a new job, you're going to ask for these things, again, proving that you have a disability. Decide who you need to disclose to. Not everybody needs to know that information. Lexi doesn't tell everybody that she has disabilities. The only people that need to know are the people that need to help her. So that's also something to decide is, when do you disclose? People are going to, need to support you, but that's where you have to ask for it. In job settings, it's the HR, your human resources is going to provide those tools, but then you'll also work with your office of vocational rehab and other agencies that are outside of work, but know who to ask and when to ask and when to disclose. These are some talking points. Each of these areas are part of how you will consider current and future use of technology and how it affects your success, whether it's with instruction and you need instructions or training on how to use the technology. You might need, in our world of education, it's called related services, but outside it's just called services. As a speech pathologist, I might have been customizing devices in the school setting, but then I had to become an outside vendor for our adults to be able to customize those devices in another way. Services outside of school are usually tied to the specialty of the provider. So occupational therapists are usually the ones who are looking at feeding, positioning, computer access. I'm looking at language. I might, as an AT person, I might be doing other things. That's usually not what I'm vendorized for. And then, physical therapists are also looking at seating and positioning, mobility, all assistive technology. And again, coming back to, while we're talking about these things, unfortunately, we're still in that medical model of identifying disability. So while I always look at what do we need to be doing better, sometimes we have to play the game of identification. All right, here's our other, raise your hand, please. Everybody's a participant here. All right, so strategic use. This is when you can use technology in a variety of settings, or pick your setting, like in the video. Oh, I wanted to move this. You might use assistive technology at home, but not in school because you don't need it. And that's okay. So, all right, so beginning level, it's okay to say that you are. No everybody's got a range of skills and abilities. There are things that I'm awesome at and things that I am not. So here we are. I use a limited range of AT devices and other campus technology options or work-related options. I depend on others to tell me which option to use. Anyone? Okay, that's the beginning level. Next level. Number 2, when AT is needed, I need help to choose the AT device for each situation. Anybody in that situation? That's why we have AT people. We also have peers that might be more tech savvy or again, using your peer resources. Go to 3 before me is the thing that we teach our kids in school that we also need to employ. Number 3, middle of the road. When AT is needed, I can review the range of AT devices that I use, but I may need assistance to decide which one to use in a specific class or situation. Do we have anybody that you know? Okay, middle of the road. Awesome. Yeah. Sometimes, I mean, if you don't know even if the task is new to you, you might ask friends for tips and tricks, like what works for you. All right, number 4. I generally choose the AT that I will use for specific classes or purposes, but sometimes I ask for help to make sure my choice is the best solution for me. All right, we've got a few more hands there. Good, good. Number 5, I know which AT works for me and I can independently select the appropriate AT for each situation from a variety of AT options that I know how to use. This is me personally. Like I honestly, every day, personalize my user experience. How many people are 5s? All right, we got a few. This is another resource. This is fantastic. It is a literal walkthrough of how you would choose and use technology for adults in like after you graduate from high school. I like the simplified language. I like that it is individually guided, that you can look through what's the problem? What do you think might help? What's the situation? Because situations will vary. I might use technology in one situation and not in another. What's already been tried? What do you like? What do you not like? And what do you wish had more features? Is that when you add more? What will you use and how will you use it? What needs to be done and what's the plan? Developing a plan after you've tried all these different things really helps to bring teams together to get the resources that you need in other settings, whether it's school, employment, or working with your independent living team. This is just a quick flow chart for IEP teams. It's not this, some of the suggestions in purple are not the same, but I do like that it's got the questions to ask, possible outcomes, and then suggestions for actions. Some of their specific terminology is a little bit different.
So when you start looking at how to obtain different type of tech after high school, we really need to understand, as Tammy mentioned, with her daughter, with yourself as youth, that this is not your IEP following you through into the adult world, into post-secondary education, into employment. It truly is you choosing to disclose what your disability is, seeking those accommodations, you having conversations, and knowing that you are choosing to have that conversation. So it's really important to have the understanding of what you're going to say and then understand who you're going to say it to, because as Tammy mentioned, that you don't have to disclose it to everyone. Not the entire, workforce that you're working with needs to know what you don't want to know. And that's what's really important is, knowing that disclosure is important, but it also needs to be linked with your accommodation to a specific need. So if there is a need, if you have a vision deficit and accommodation is to support that vision deficit with AT, or you have a reading deficit or just a attention deficit so that you can be moving. We're all moving. Tammy and I are moving throughout this entire process so that you can have the accommodations that work for you to be successful, no matter what you're doing in your academics, in your employment, so that you can enjoy whatever you choose to be doing. We also want to look at different ways so that there's different skills to increase that independence. On the screen, there's 4 different skills we're looking at, and it really looks at those different ways of using technology, different ways of looking at those tasks. We talked about SET earlier, the SET framework, and really looking at what are those different ways to be looking at this. We don't always do SET throughout our entire life, but we really want to look at how we're allowing and supporting students to be independent and looking at those right tasks that we're supporting them with and connecting them to that technology and really supporting them with people as well, because when people are supporting us to connect, as Tammy and I work with students, as well as learning what that technology is and then learning if it's connecting to them, it supports that success. And then when we start looking at the different areas, so we're going to first look at education, so post-secondary education and training, no matter what that looks like. For some students, it may be a 4-year college. For others, it may be on the job training or community education, depending what it is. Every student is unique, just like I'm unique, as well as any youth who has come to this conference is unique. So we want to make sure that they're getting and choosing what they would like. And so we start looking at AT in the different areas that they're going to need support and what would work in that area to benefit their accommodations. And that's what's important, is looking at those different areas that they can look at and support. So this resource, which is in your folder, it really looks at the different areas to support academics as well as organization and learning, computer access, to look at that continuum of AT, that low tech to mid tech to high tech. Looking at different types of test taking, do we need some support with a low distraction? Aaron mentioned when we came in that it's nice ambient lighting because we know what lighting is like, or repetitive directions because not everyone is focused. Not everyone is ready the moment those directions are spoken. Or with different academics, I'd mentioned earlier with that text to speech, because of a reading level or even an audiobook, depending on how the textbook is being read. So lots of different ideas and suggestions. And then when we look at employment, many different of those will cross over from post-secondary into employment, but also other types like modifications of learning and what you're doing on the work site, as well as different types of schedules, other people to support, a job coach or a personal assistant to learn the job, as well as to make sure you're doing well. So again, that great resource looks at different types of ways that AT can come into play. I had mentioned earlier about different types of setup for a computer or how you're standing. So thinking about those sensory, but also physical ways to make you're able to support yourself and those you're working with each day to get through however long you're working. Because we don't always think about, sitting in your chair for 8 hours a day, what that means to us and how much we're moving, or how it could be impacting a student who is uncomfortable, how that moves on our body. So really important areas for think about. And the bottom one really talks about flexibility of hours. Many more people outside of education is working from home. My husband is 100% work from home, and that flexibility of hours he has in comparison when you have that type of a job. Can a student have that type of a job when they're going into a new employment? Or is it a rigid, specific type, and for them to learn that process and understand what that type of hours means? And then in the community, what does community living mean? We talk about independent living, we talk about living with others, whatever that means, and navigating that system, looking at everything we do every single day, wellness and health and travel and transportation, shopping, and what our daily needs are. So there's lots of different resources, not just this book, but there's lots of other resources to look at for adaptive clothing and for recreational. There's, different ways to support students to have that success.
Oh, I'm going to interrupt really quick. So I'm a big camper and I love REI. And guess what they have on their website? They have A Guide to Adaptive Camping. So what's really awesome is thanks to all of you and all of the awesome advocates and people that have talked about what makes things hard and how do you want to enjoy life. There's even REI, a big national retailer, provides options for you. So it's out there. We just have to find it and use each other as resources for this good information.
Perfect. And as Tammy had talked about previously, notifications with GPS, GPS can really support different travel options, but also notification of when different appointments are coming up, what you need to do based on GPS. And if you'll notice in home living, different types of accessibility, as well as I'd mentioned environmental engineering, how a home can be set up for a person to, have success and be independent. So planning for a student to be independent using those environmental controls very much can support anything into the future. And it's continuously growing and changing and evolving. So just things to consider. I am going to jump us out and we're going to quick watch Adam. And Adam is a student who's going to talk about his way through technology, through his life, and he is in college at the moment.
Technology in my life for addictive technology with my hearing loss, and I use the technology, the everyday technology like an iPad, but I adapt the everyday technology to my specific needs. I use the iPad for like recording my classes, lectures, and notes. I use a FM system for addictive technology with my professors so I can hear them better. So I use technology in that sense. I've been using assistive technology in terms of my hearing aids since I was 4 years old. I've used wheelchairs, walkers, crutches. I've used them all my life so far, 20 years. I've used a service dog since I was 10 years old. This is my second one. It's okay. I had a teacher, Spanish teacher who.
All right. So Adam has used lots of technology, and we're going to use that to go into our next section and talk about our examples.
I was hoping we could do this together, but I think just out of the interest of time, these are examples for reading. But if you have other examples, absolutely, we want to hear from you. I just threw in, like, some of us use our finger across the page to find things, regardless of our reading fluency level. You might also use items that provide context clues that in the settings where I'm observing classrooms as an AT person or an AAC person, I love when I see visual supports, like when the teacher says, turn to page 25 and they hold up their object. That is absolutely a visual reference for some of our students who are struggling with, okay, that's what page 25 looks like. Here's the picture that goes with it. So that would be an environmental modification. How are we increasing the ability to understand what's happening? Print to me is, reading is language in print. Reading and writing is language in print. That's me speaking as a speech pathologist, of course. I love language. But then you might use overlays that follow the reading passages. You might use colored overlays because it helps reduce the way that the text can be registered. Some of us have challenges with black on white and maybe need other colors to support that. High tech. How many of us are Siri and Alexa and Cortana users, right? She can read passages to you. You can also go to the library and tap into Libby, or if you have a print disability or a vision disability, you can go to bookshare.org, all free. I love free. Then there are sites and tools that help summarize the information or even condense it in a way that it reduces the distractions around you. I sometimes have to tap into that because it can be overwhelming when the ads are popping up all the time. You can't read the website, right? Or you might use videos to introduce a topic before you launch into the reading tool itself. So there's a range of things that we can be using. Again, low to high tech, it just depends on what is most effective. I did a food prep example because I love to cook. Imagine that, a speech pathologist with a gadget problem who likes to cook with lots of technology tools. So these are just examples. They're in their website, or I'm sorry, in your handouts. And then this is what we were hoping to do with you, but hopefully we'll be in touch after the session at some point. This is an observational tool. If you are considering going into another setting and you just want to audit a class, go see what they're doing in the employment setting. It helps you to, again, talk about the features that we were looking, or that I mentioned earlier, where observe the task, see what else everybody else is doing. What's going to be hard? What's going to be something that you'll want to consider to make it easier and optimize the task? Then we've got ways to infuse the technology. Again, it can be embedded into anything. If you think, my example of thinking about assistive technology is when you build a house, the wiring is behind the walls, but you don't always see it until you need it and you turn on the light or you turn on the oven or it's refrigerating your food. Assistive technology is the same thing. It's there. You just have to decide when and how to use it. I'm going to skip this. We have lots of resources that are available to you. In addition to Tammy's, we also have Greg's and Jennifer's that are on our assistive technology team that specialize in various areas, whether it's learning, communication, vision, hearing. And we do have actually somebody that looks at seating and positioning and computer access that we consult with. So we have a wealth of knowledge on our team. We also have an amazing network of AT specialists across the state who are there to support you as you're going through the journey from high school to transition. They want to help you think about those things and the questions to ask. This is a resource available on our website. You can tap into all of those hyperlinked titles. This is also feature matching by Kelly Fonner. She's amazing. If you're looking at that, there's like the overview of the things that you would want to consider. Here are our app lists, as promised. We do have apps specifically, but because of your unique needs, we didn't want to necessarily go, you want to use Speechify because it's the best thing ever. And it was designed by an individual with dyslexia, which is true, but it may not work for everybody. Grammarly, I love, but it doesn't always work for everybody. You're going to find the tool that works best for you. So these are a couple of my favorite quotes. One is that technology, oh, I can't even move it. Oh, there we go. And then I hate PCs. Can I tell you that right now? As my tech guy is up there. For Americans without disabilities, technology makes things easier. For Americans with disabilities, technologies makes things possible. That was first introduced in an IBM manual. And then Judith Heumann, beautiful person that she was, she also had repeated variations. There's lots of variations of that saying, but change never happens at the place we think it should. It happens over years of people joining together, strategizing, sharing and pulling of all the levers that they possibly can, right? Through advocacy, gradually, excruciatingly, slowly, as we've heard at this conference, slowly, things start to happen. And then suddenly, seemingly out of the blue, something will tip. Let's tip those scales so that we're optimizing and creating independence, okay? So the last thing, oh gosh, help me. Tammy Bertel. There we go. All right. So I have one more student that I want you to hear from. Oh, come on. There we go. Oh, nope.
I think it got me ready.
Oh, the question was, hold on, it's being quirky. All right. So what were the benefits of planning for your future. It actually, this is going to be a video in our student-led IEPs. I just thought it fit perfectly, and I have access to the raw video. She might be related to me. All right, so let's see.
I think it got me ready for making sure I know what works for me and also knowing the process. So it got me comfortable with advocating for myself and comfortable with the different options for me. And it also kind of got me used to the process and which accommodations were most beneficial to me. So I think that's the most important thing that I learned.
Think back to your sorry, that was supposed to stop. So one of the things that I also heard at this conference was, although we start planning at 14, really we should start earlier. I prepped her starting in 3rd grade. We asked those questions. She was there part of the time. So start early. Think about the things that make things easier for us and more independent, whether we're family members, educators, and particularly our students. But thank you so much.
All right, everyone, enjoy your lunch, but the code today is F as in Friday, P as in party, 84, FP 84. Have a great day, everybody. Be safe in your travels when you're heading back to your homes. Bye-bye.
I use Quillbot for some of my dissertation writing.
Yeah. So you can do it in ChatGPT. There's a free version. ChatGPT is all over the internet, right? Heard of it? No. And then yeah, write it down.
Lunch and learn again goes until right until the session starts and we're back here.
Okay,
So
and
we're gonna do our best.
I'm in this section, so I'll make sure they know.
Okay.
I'm
I'm sorry, I
I'm
tried to get in this door. I was standing right outside
Oh,
of it.
I'll
As soon as
have-
I heard you, I was like, I'm gonna come in, and then I'm like,
And
no,
then
I'm not.
there's Wordify.
I'll
Use
make
that
sure the
one.
door's open.
best laid
I'm doing
plans.
virtual. I'll make sure it's open for you.
Is it Wordify or Wordly? Wordly.
Wordly.
Wordly, sorry. I use it. I just don't. Word LY. And there's a